Policy is an idea which provides a line of action for the development of a particular sector. There are policies in different sectors, for example, agricultural policy, educational policy, industrial policy, forest policy, etc. In India, policy may be studied in two stages: pre-independence and post-independence. Forest is a very significant sector in Indian economy and environment and ecology. That's why it is pertinent to study the forest policy in India. Forest is a floristic biotic resource, especially the all species of flora are included in it, and it provides a very sound base for the ecology and environment. Thus, forest has significant ecological and environmental role to play in India. For the sustainable development of these renewable resources, policy is needed. Forest is a renewable resource. It is used and it is renewed. That's why a good policy is needed for its betterment. Britishers formulated first forest policy in 1878, but their purpose was to exploit the forest resource for their use. In 1894, British forest policy was renewed and a new draft was prepared. But in 1927, forests at that time were under the control of state, because before independence, India was divided in different provinces, and there were independent state government under which forests were there. And for the first time in India, Forest Research Institute was established in Dehradun in 1906 by the Britishers for the research and the development of the forest in India. Now it is post-independence India when the Indian government, central government, adopted new forest policy. In 1952, Indian forest policy classified forest in four categories. First, conserved forest; second, national forest; third, rural forest; and fourth, tree land or unclassified forest. Thus, these were separated and managed independently. Policy for these were prepared independently. The aim of the new forest policy in 1952 was to cover about one-third area of the country under the forest, and therein about 60% land of 60% area of mountain was proposed to be under forest, 40% area of plateau land and 20% area of plain should be under forest, but total in all one-third area of the country should be under the forest. This was the aim of the policy and proposal of the forest department. And second aim was to control on the zooming practice of agriculture, which was mostly in the northeast India and Odisha and Eastern Ghat mountain, because due to zooming practice the forests were damaged at large scale and no agricultural productivity in turn was gained. That's why this practice was considered seriously and banned at that time. And third point or third aim of the 1952 post-independence forest policy was to do research on different plant species in the forest and their preservation and conservation. Now, in 1976, a new step was taken as a social forestry which supported the forest department, and this was by the Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India, and it had three segments: one, farm forestry; second, community forestry; and third, public woodlot. In farm forestry, farmers were encouraged to plant on their field. In community, by the villagers on the land of village or village community, the forest was grown. But in public woodlot, it was practiced by the forest department on the public land like along road, rail, canal, and other public places. Thus, this social forestry came into existence in 1976, and this added more in the forest department. Now, these were the two policies, two post-independence policies of 1952 and 1976. But later on, in 1988, a new policy was adopted by the forest department, wherein aims were upgraded. The main target of the new policy was ecological stability, means the sustainable development of environment and especially ecology, means therein all the relationships of all the biotic and abiotic systems were being emphasized. It means the abiotic, atmospheric, hydrospheric, lithospheric components were integrated and studied with the biotic, means the floristic and faunistic components. It means environment and ecological developments were established, focused. And the second aim was the soil erosion control. Soil erosion was a very severe problem that India was facing by the different fluvial, aeolian, glacial, marine processes. Therein, the aim of forest was to control soil erosion by these forces and to preserve and conserve the soil for the existence and development of agriculture and forestry. The third emphasis was given on the conservation of plant and shrub species due to fuel need. Shrub species were being depleted at large scale. So, in this second phase of policy, the preservation and conservation of plants and shrub and rare species of plants were being emphasized. The next emphasis was given on the social forestry, which we have discussed three segments: farm forestry, community forestry, and public woodlot. It also added much in the forestry policy and forestry department. Next point is forest productivity increase. Forests are main biotic resource which have a number of advantages, direct and indirect, that we have studied. That's why in this policy it was emphasized to increase in the production of wood, fruit, flower, seed and spices was being emphasized in this policy. Next emphasis was to control sand dune expansion. In West India, especially Rajasthan and Haryana, sand dunes were advancing towards the agricultural land in the north, Punjab, in the east, Haryana, and in south, Gujarat. The aim of this forest policy was to control these sand dunes by their stabilization, drip and sprinkling irrigation, and social forestry in the sandy areas, and the line of tree plantation and forestry along on the border of the deserts which were expanding. Thus, these were the aims of new forest policy in 1988. There were some amendments later on done in the forest policy. Amendment was done in 1994. A new draft was prepared by the Forest Department in 2018, which had the same aims of 1988 forest policy, but here a new emphasis is on the climatic control because it is now the phase of global warming and CO2 increase and global warming. That is a present day challenge. That's why Forest Department also includes this in its policy, and the climatic control has become a main aim of the Forest Department. Then, in new forest policy, emphasis is on the National Community Forest Management Commission, which has been established, and here the forests have been under the control of the central state government and the local people, especially tribals there. That's why the private and public participation has been emphasized in new policy, because without the local people it is difficult to control the deforestation and to apply the developmental projects in that area. These are the main aims of the draft 2018 forest policy. This is about the forest policy. Post-independence forest policy has two phases. Number 1, forest policy of 1952 and forest policy of 1988, and this 1988 is divide or water divide of forest policy, because before 1988 the afforestation, reforestation were the main purpose of forest policy of Government of India. But in 1988 the new forest policy had some aims which are of present environmental and ecological relevance, and these are especially emphasizing on the control of degrading environment. That's why these are very important. Hence, UPSC may have a question: prove that the new forest policy of 1988 is better than the old forest policy of 1952. At that time, you will compare with the help of a chart or flow chart by writing in one column the forest policy of 1952 and its aim and impact, and the second stage of forest policy of 1982, its aims and its impact on the India. Thus, comparative questions may be asked by the UPSC, and integrated question of the forest policy development and its impact on the economy of India may also be asked, where you will write the entire matter.